When Bartow police officer Brian Dorman is running code, cars just seem to get out of his way faster these days, and the department believes this is the reason. It's called the Howler.
I don't know if I could go back to just a regular siren and feel safe with it.
Like a big subwoofer, the Howler sends out a low-frequency vibration up to 200 feet. You can see flashing lights, you can hear a siren, but the Howler you feel. In an age of texting, iPods, and cell phone distractions, that can be a valuable tool.
It just scared me more than anything. Well, you can hear it, you can watch out for it. Pay attention.
You got a howler here on the Impala.
William Groover, who works at Bartow's carpool facility, first pitched the idea after feeling the Howler himself while visiting relatives in New York.
It's like a vibration almost. Wasn't overwhelming, but it was just different.
The city of Bartow first decided to try out the Howler system with its fire department, and they liked the results. The Howler was co-developed by a Florida Highway Patrol captain, and in its first 5 years on the market, has been adopted by more than 100 agencies, including Chicago, Boston, and the NYPD. The Polk County Sheriff's Office went with another system, calling the Howler pricey at $350 apiece. But Bartow police say they've worked out a package deal, worth the expense.
To make sure that we're seen, heard, and felt in order to do our job safely.
In Bartow, Eric Glasser, 10 News.
Accountability.
Judge Tommy Munoz has a passion for keeping students on the right track at a young age.
To have respect, do your homework, do what you need to do. I tell them in court, I said, the schools have rules. You break the rules, you got to come to court. For the adults, what do we have? Laws. We break the law, where do we go? To jail.
Munoz works with the Bryan School District to help place students on the AimTruancy Solutions program.
The Truancy program also not only serves as a tracking system too, but more of a mentoring system. In other words, they have coaches, mentors that talk to these students.
Over 200 schools in Texas use this handheld device that wakes students up for school and constantly monitors where they are during the day.
We listen to what's going on in their life, and then we start leading them to what is ultimately much more decisions and much better quality of life, but it all starts with education, and education starts with getting to school and getting to school on time.
Since the program started in Brazos County, it has improved student attendance by 24%.
I think it's been a huge success. We've had a lot of students that have written letters, parents sending thank you notes. Thank you very much, Judge.
Knox says the GPS device guides students to get on the path of accountability and gives at-risk youth a chance to change their future.
They have choices. There is an environment. There's a much bigger picture and a much bigger world, and it's their choice. And we just have to help them sometimes get to that situation and find and really instill the hope.
Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 3 of this news bulletin for today, the last part. And I apologize for the bad video there on this one. I actually tried, I think it was about 10 times before I actually started recording to get that to play. So, but either way, you know, see, they want to be like the big police states of Boston, Chicago. You heard it, you know, we just want to be like them, like, you know. And what did one officer say? I don't know if I could go back to a regular siren and feel safe with it, right? He doesn't feel safe with flak jackets and being totally militarized with tasers, a computer database in his Batmobile totally linked up to federal agencies and stuff like that. All the ability, the laws all set up, catered towards him. He doesn't. Also, every town now, even small towns that I've been through and lived in, and these small towns, they have all this equipment hooked up to these little cruisers that they have. I mean, the towns themselves, they have no industry, they have no economy, right? But they have these souped up fucking big ass cars, like in what was it, Pine Ridge? You know, it was a documentary I saw from RT, and they had this huge, you know, thing right there. I mentioned this before, an SUV, souped up and everything, while there's like homeless people on the side of the road and just, you know, totally dirt poor and stuff like that. But they somehow manage to scrounge up enough tax dollars to fucking fund all this stuff. I mean, we're talking about technology where they can remotely shut off your car. The one town I remember, population of like 300. The car had a it had the super mic where they can actually listen in, like, on you, basically, 50 yards or something like that away. And, this is the thing about these sirens. I've already thought about the sirens. I don't like the sirens. They actually aggravate me when I hear them, because, just the way I think, it's like I don't want the state to, I just don't want people to be relying on them. And then you see these stupid sheeple saying, well, if you hear it, you better get out of the way. And that one girl said, well, it makes me feel scared. Well, that's the whole point of those sirens. When you hear the siren and you see the flashes, the red and blue, you think death. You get scared, really, especially now that they're highly digitized, those lights. I mean, I'm glad I'm not epileptic, because if I was, I probably would have, be more seizure prone around those damn things. I don't like them. My eyes are somewhat sensitive to light, and those things kind of just drive me nuts, basically. And I know what they're there to do. They're there to instill fear, and that's why that lady said she was scared, and that's why they're stimulating all the senses. So now you can hear it, you can see it, and now you can feel it. Just to let you know that you're a slave. And then, of course, you had this Texas judge saying, basically equating the courts and the laws for the parents as basically these truancy task forces are for the children, right? To bring a better quality of your life, you have to get educated, right? You have to get brainwashed and indoctrinated into this system, like those slaves that were like, oh yeah, you better just get out of the way. This is a great little tool, I mean, I guess people, if they wanted to, they could try to just homeschool their children or something and avoid all this. But, I'll show you this article, because there was another one up too, a story about it. Judge sends honor student to jail for missing school. I believe it was the parents that were arrested for their student right here. This was just recently, from the 24th. Mother gets jail time for allowing her kids to skip school. And then they have this article right here. I'm going to close that out. It says here, Houston area teenager has been jailed and fined for missing school by a judge who hopes to make an example of her. 17-year-old is working with 2 jobs while taking advanced placement and dual credit courses at William High School. So she kind of believes in this, right? That's what I think. I think she kind of just believes in this whole thing, working 2 jobs, taking dual credit courses. She's probably planning on going to college and being a good member of, productive member of this slave society. But that wasn't good enough, right? You have to get your indoctrination too. So it goes on here, and it says that some mornings she is simply too exhausted to make it to school on time. Some days she misses classes altogether. So the judge justified this by saying, if you let one of them run loose, what are you gonna do with the rest of them? Let them go too? So it says here that her parents actually divorced out of the blue last year, both moved away, leaving the high schooler on her own in Willis. So she's working part-time at a wedding venue and full-time at a dry cleaning business just to stay afloat. This is a follow-up story to this. This is actually from December of last year. Florida County will throw parents of truant kids in jail. New Truancy court in Palm Beach, Florida aims to cut down on the state's absentee rate for young children by punishing parents who don't take their kids to school. And then we have this right here. Mayor's Interagency Task Force on Truancy. So remember, I covered this before about Texas having a truancy task force, and this is by design, guys. I mean, the whole thing about having just a 2-member family, or a 1-member family, I mean, that was all by design. The main thing is to get the father out of the house, get the mother so that she has to go to work all the time. Then she has to dump the kids off at the re-education camp so they get brainwashed, right, for 8 hours, and then they do their extracurricular activities around their iPods. They don't even have a relationship or even know their parents. But this is everywhere, This is New York City. This is in Oakland, all the way across the country. This is in Texas, all the way across the country. This page is no longer available. Then you have students will be tracked via chips and IDs. This is recently from May 26. So it says here the school plans to track students next year on 2 of its campuses using technology implanted in their student identification cards, which will be mandatory, right? So this is the thing. Everybody's accepting, like that horn in the beginning, that's shooting out low frequency waves, right? These people are going to have these radio frequencies. They're going to be required to have these identification cards. They're going to be shooting out these radio frequencies. And you know what I'm saying? Nobody ever thinks about that, dude. They never take that in consideration, like a tower that they just put up recently near my house. Before I had a tower that was just blinking the red light, kind of like a boom, 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 you know, and now they switched it all of a sudden, recently, in the past 2 weeks, to a white light, and I noticed that those ones, they tend to be a little more intense, dude. They'd be like, boom, 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 and I live kind of out here in the sticks, so this is a big deal. And I noticed afterwards that, you know, I was starting to feel the effects on my body recently, little ailments flaring up. And then I noticed that a new tower is put up afterwards. So, and then I noticed just around my area, people are getting violent. You know, there's been people thrown out next door, people across the way getting into it over like a dog or something like that. But I can assure you that these telecom companies, they don't give a shit about your health, and they have no consideration whatsoever for the people that are going to be having to experience these radio frequencies pulsing through their body and through their heads, you know, because they subject their own workers to it that go to these towers, right? They have a little remote and stuff, and they can turn them off so they don't get such a high dose of it. You know, so if they'll use their own workers as little guinea pigs, they're definitely going to use the masses. It says here, face reading software to judge mood of the masses. So speaking of the masses, May 28th, 2012, systems that can identify emotions and images of faces might soon collate millions of people's reactions to events and could replace opinion polls. So this is going to be based for what? For advertising, probably, is how they're going to sell it. But it goes on here and it says, so they're using it more for polling for elections, not so much advertising as I thought it would. But it says here that it can gauge people's reactions even as they sit watching it at home. She even went on and said that they can use it on the streets, and they tested it in an experiment on a college campus to gauge the general mood, as it says. But this one individual worries that the technology might have a dark side. My fear is that some of these dictators, like Obama, would want to blow away the village that doesn't like them, she says. So we're talking about face reading, you know. Well, I found this article. Miami police kill man eating another man's face. Surveillance video shows a parent shooting nude men on the ground. So, and this was in Miami, Florida. So the Fraternal Order of Police says drugs are at the root of the attacks. So I'm not sure if it's actually bath salts, the salt that you put in your baths, or it's a new type of LSD, but it says this new LSD is commonly called bath salt. So it says here that it can raise a body temperature to such a high degree that logic and ability to feel pain or loss and delirium sets in. So they blame it purely on the drugs. I think there's something messed up with our society right now. But either way, it goes down here and the cops threaten people saying, if you're selling LSD to people, you'll be charged. So you might want to start off with the CIA and that, because they're the ones that originally created this stuff. They're probably the ones that created this new type. So Miami, Florida. Now remember this article, female vampire busted in bloody biting attack. And where? Florida. Yeah, he chomped an old man's face saying, I'm a vampire. Remember this Texas teen held after a vampire attack. Then we have this. Thousands take part in Slut Walks in Brazil. So they dressed up like a bunch of whores and staged boisterous slut walks in several Brazilian cities to protest sexual violence against women. It says it's a call to end physical, sexual, and psychological violence against women. So how about the psychological violence that's carried out against men? Some of them were calling for the decriminalization of abortion. They included representatives of various feminist, lesbian, and transgender groups, where now Brazil, it's actually a legal right to have a sex change. The first walk was held in Toronto last year after a police officer caused outrage by stating that women should avoid dressing like sluts in order to not be victimized. And then in the U.S., House passes Violence Against Women Act, so, they could have counseling and stuff and say, well, as you dressed up like a hoochie, inviting stuff like that, you're not responsible, You got pregnant and you have an abortion, you're not responsible for that. We have counseling for you. And remember this story about the male birth control, which explodes sperm. Male pill gene discovery may lead to a contraceptive for men. Then dozens held at the Russian Orthodox Church activists attack gay rights rallies. So if you remember earlier this year, Russia introduced a bill that would impose fines for spreading gay propaganda among minors. And we always see stuff in the news, right? Babies saved by smallest artificial heart. Well, what about this? Medical marijuana saves baby's life. You're never going to see that in the mainstream propaganda machine. Thank you.